Oops. Just want to make sure everybody can hear this. Sound check. So if somebody could confirm that they can hear me, that would be great. And then we'll go ahead and start. Good day, G. I'll start with the top rower. Let's see. Good timing on this one. All us single guys have nothing to do on a Friday night. Yes, with everything being closed, I guess. Bob says the quick answer is no, meaning they will not open up. The Philippines will be staying closed until third quarter of 2022. Really? Is that what you think? Or until the virus is eradicated? Thinking positive here. Realistically, they'll wait until 2023. I don't know. I just think the economical situation here is not good, and they need the income. So I don't see that as possible that they will stay closed to 2023. I actually think I'm a bit more optimistic than Geo. I think they'll be open by the end of this year, maybe even beginning of fourth quarter. They'll follow in Thailand's footsteps, and Thailand right now is opening Phuket, however you say that, in July without any quarantine as long as you're vaccinated. So that's an experiment, and I'm sure the Philippines will keep an eye on that, and then at that point, within a few weeks, a month or two, decide what they're going to do. And they might do the same. They might say, okay, since Cebu is open for tourists anyway, why don't you go ahead and let people in? There's an international airport here. So I'm more hopeful than most. I guess I have more faith in the Filipino government than most people. I don't know if that's a misplaced faith or not, but we'll see. We'll see. Mr. Ron says, I really doubt the president could give you the date they will open for international travel. No, I mean, he could. I mean, if he wanted to, but he won't. Yeah, so we're talking about the president, and there's going to be an election next year, and that's another thing. With the election coming up and unemployment so high as it is, you got to think that the politicians are thinking, I got to do something. I got to do something to get reelected. And I think opening up will be one of them, especially I'm talking about people who have been vaccinated. There is no reason on earth not to open up to people who have been vaccinated, as long as they can prove that. And hopefully with smartphones and all that, they'll have some type of app soon that will be recognized internationally. I think they're working on it on both Android and Apple systems. So hopefully soon. Good day, Gio. Great live cast, by the way. Okay, everybody can hear me. That's great. Let's go through the comments then. I'll skip over the ones that just say you can hear me because I get that now. The Kentucky Derby State is in the house. Okay. Morning, Chris. How are you? Morning, Jenny the Morena. If they don't open by my time frame, I'll just go to Vietnam. Yeah, that's another thing. There are other places opening up. An example is Thailand, and I'm sure Vietnam, Malaysia, and all will start opening up sooner rather than later. And if the Philippines doesn't follow suit, they're gonna lose out on a lot of tourism revenue, and they need that revenue more than these other countries who have supplemental industries, if you want to call it that. Good morning, Barwin, or good evening to you. ABM says June 2022. We should start like a, what do you call that? Like a betting thing, with everybody chooses a month from now to end of 23. Put $5 in each month, and the one who wins gets the whole thing. Sounds Online says they are stubborn. I doubt they will open anytime soon. I think they will open this year. I'm putting my bets on that. Mr. Ron is asking me how long I have left on my visa. Well, I went back to the States in July 2019, and I came back first week of August 2019, so I have 3 years from that. So unless I do like Malaysia and decide not to do any more extensions and boot us all out, I don't know. Phuket. Okay, thanks for that, Sound Online. Uh, glad you do. Not sure what that means, but Thailand's locking down now. July is 7-day quarantine for vaccinated and 10-day for unvaccinated. That's not what I read, Daryl. I got one here that's okay. So that might be a bit old. Okay, so they're actually changing their minds, because my understanding was that they're going to open up in July, but everything keeps changing. Again, that's the problem, right? My understanding is they're going to open up in July for unvaccinated people in Phuket, and somebody might want to verify that for me, or say that that's not right, that that's actually changed. Hi, Paul. Do you ever think about pursuing career in Asia, such as diplomat working for the Foreign Service? I'd love to work, but I don't even know where to start, Carl. So if you have some good contacts, I'll be more than happy to follow up on that. Monterey Smith, thanks, Paul, for being positive instead of negative about the Philippines opening up. I don't know if it's negative. Some people call it realistic and not negative. Everybody has a different point of view. I don't know if one is positive or one's negative. I'm just more optimistic than most people. I think there's two main factors: is the economy and elections coming up next year here in the Philippines. And I think with that, they will have to open up. I mean, and I've covered this in some videos. There's a lot of condos owned by OFWs. There's resort owned by a lot of rich people here in the Philippines. And there must be a lot of pressure on the government for them to open up, because they're empty, so to say, empty. So, have you been to Davao? No, I have not. If so, you see the main difference with Cebu. No, I haven't been to Davao, but I know people have been and they love it. And this is what I've been told: Davao is the best place for single guys. I cannot confirm or deny that, but that's what I've been told by several people that have been to both Davao, Cebu, and Duma and other places, and they always say Davao is the best place. I know Gio's been to Davao and CDO, and maybe he can comment on the comment below. But no, I haven't been there. But that's one of the places I plan to go to. It's Davao, CDO, Baguio. That kind of the three places I'm thinking of after Cebu. Duterte can't run again. No, he can't, but his daughter can. And I think there's going to be a lot of people throwing their name in the hat, and we'll see. We'll see who comes out on top. House security in the building is fantastic. They have guards downstairs. They have cameras in every floor, and they have a security room. They opened the doors. I peeked in with like tons of TVs and monitoring everything, and the guard sitting there watching everything. So security is awesome. You're basically not getting into the building unless someone's invited you. So um, that's really good too. If I mean, if you're a single guy and dating, it's living in a condo like this is good, because like if something happens with your girlfriend and or someone you're dating and they turn out to be a how should I say this, a stalker or somebody who you don't want to be with anymore, but they keep trying to come up to your place, you don't have to worry about that. Um, I agree on opening the vaccinated and just test before your flights. Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't think they'll let you in just with a test. I think you've got to have had the vaccine, and I think that's going to be the thing now. If you don't have the vaccine, you're not going to be able to come in. So all those people that say I'm never going to take the vaccine forget coming to the Philippines for at least 2 years. So, and I think it's going to be the same with Thailand. I think it's going to be the same with many countries, and so that's the future is vaccine. And in my opinion, this vaccine is going to be a yearly thing, because COVID is already mutating. I don't know if these mutations are as deadly, or they're maybe even more deadly. So with every mutation, the vaccine might have less efficiency, or so they might have to come up with a new type of vaccine where, the same with the flu vaccine, right? Every year you have to take a shot. You don't have to, but some people take a shot. How long did I live in the US? I lived in the US since 96 when I went to take my master's in engineering. And then I left 2018. I also left 2004 for 6 months to go to Spain to help my mother out with her business. So basically, yeah, I'm a US naturalized citizen. So actually, the US is the longest place I've lived. So I think I lived in Norway 15 years and England 5 years. I lived some years in Egypt, and then yeah. So the longest place I've ever lived is the US, and I lived in Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana. Those are the 3 states I lived in, and I traveled around within those states also because I worked in the oil industry. So that's kind of where the oil is. So, Jenny de Morena, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, there is. That's what we need nowadays, a positive vibe. Yes, we do. But I mean, I'm not just being optimistic based on nothing because I'm an optimistic guy. I really think, but then again, I was optimistic last year. But I think with the vaccine, it's a different situation, and I really do think we're gonna open up sooner rather than later because of the economics and the political situation. Vietnam will probably be the last to open. Why do you say that, Daryl? Is there a reason you say that, or is there some information on that, or what's the reason you say that? It'd be interesting to know that. Very few people are prepared to quarantine, me included. Yeah, I mean, if they're going to open up, they're not going to open up with quarantine. I mean, some countries have tried that and it was just an absolute failure. I mean, no one's going to go for a 3-week vacation and stay 1 week cooped up in a hotel. You're not going to pay that kind of money. I mean, maybe some people will, but a very small percentage. I mean, you got to be desperate for a vacation to do that, right? So I really think it's going to be no quarantine, maybe like a swab test after a week or something. You have to go in somewhere or something, but I don't, no quarantine. I just don't see it. And if they do start with quarantine, the way, so here domestically, they started some islands like Bohol, as an example, started with quarantine, that as a tourist, you had to quarantine. No one bothered. I mean, no one came. A very, very small percentage. And then they went, now you have to do a swab test. Still completely empty, the resorts. So they have to learn the lesson the hard way, some people. I mean, the mayor here in Cebu City, at least she is smart and understood that if she's going to get the economy going again, she needs to do something. And she has. And people can travel from other islands without any swab test. And I just in the few weeks I've been here, I mean, maybe it's my imagination, but traffic is actually getting worse. So that means the economy is picking up. So it seems like the economy here in Cebu at least is picking up because I think more and more people are probably coming here compared to, I mean, why stay in an island where continuous lockdowns if you can go to an island that's free? I mean, both business and tourism. Ryan says, hi to Geo. Billy, from your experience, which is the best city for dating? Well, I've only really lived in 2 places that I can talk about, and that's I've been to other places, but I can talk about other people's experience since mostly Cebu is great. I mean, Cebu is fantastic. Dumaguete, I would say no. And the reason Dumaguete is, I mean, we're all in a marketplace competing against each other, right? Be it, sorry, I lost track here. Oh, there we go. Sorry. And the more foreigners there's in a place, probably the worse the dating is because maybe those girls are used to dating foreigners and maybe they have a different attitude. So I think a place with less foreigners is probably a better place. And I haven't seen that many foreigners here, but that's because of the lockdown. But Dumaguete has a lot of retirees and it's a smaller city. And, if you date a girl that's dated a foreigner, she's probably dated 3-4 other foreigners beforehand. And I think Cebu City for me has been the best place. like I said, I've also heard good stuff about Davao. I think Bohol is probably a great place too. Pretty much it's easy to date here in the Philippines, but if you're talking about the best from what I've heard, it's Davao. But that's not personal experience. That's just talking to different people. No, I actually found a gym. I drove past the gym that's about maybe 4 to 5 minutes with scooter from here, and I saw the sign, and I want to go check it out because the gym we have is actually kind of on the small side. After this 6-month lease, if things haven't opened up, I'm actually going to go to a different condo. It's called the 1-8 or the 8. It's just maybe 200 meters down the road from here, and they have a much better gym, a full-fledged gym. So I'll probably go there after the 6 months here. Your Little Penized says, thank you for your wisdom words, Sir Paul. A lot of people need it now. They feel so hopeless with the Philippines. Say hi to Mia. She did a good job on her latest video. Yeah, she does a great job. She really does. She works hard at it, so her channel is really growing. We have a little competition who will reach 10K, and I'm afraid I'm gonna lose that one big time. Dave Koch says 14 days quarantine in Thailand, but it's really 15 days. But again, Phuket, from what I read in July, is supposed to be quarantine less. So we'll see. We'll see if they change their minds or what. We might see a wave 4 now because of a new strain out of India and Pakistan. Well, you must remember one thing. I think that's the most densely populated country in the world. What is it now in India? 1.2 or 1.3 billion people? I mean, that's not that a big a country. I mean, it is so dense there, and it's dirty. And so I can imagine the corona or the COVID, the pandemic really spreading there, and they don't have the type of resources to help stop the spread and also to help people who have the COVID. So yeah, I don't know. I think India is a case for itself, and probably Pakistan too. Thailand changes often the same day. Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm
What are
gonna
you
go
doing?
out get some sun.
Okay.
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 Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye. So Mia's leaving. She's going to go to the pool.
Then I have some friends downstairs.
Okay. Bye-bye. Now I can speak freely. Just kidding. The problem with target dates is they are moving targets. Yes, they are. And they're moving for a reason. I mean, the politicians too, they have to see what the situation is in the country and what the situation is outside of the country. And I'm sure they're looking at the West now. They're looking at the US. What is it? Over 50% have had the first shot. I think I saw in the news this morning. They're looking at Europe. They're looking at all these countries and saying to themselves, okay, there's no new strains in the US, for example, that we know of that are really very dangerous. I'm just saying that's how they think, right? And okay, so maybe we can let those people from the US in, or maybe we can let people from these countries in from Europe. So I'm sure they're going through all that. I mean, as a politician, I know I would. I'd be like thinking, how can I? You must remember the politicians, they get contributions from the people with money, right? I mean, in the Philippines, I would define it as an oligarchy, right? So these politicians get money from the oligarchies and maybe the middle class, just like in the US, right? And if they say jump, they say how high, and these people that own all this stuff, they're suffering. So they must be working together with the politicians to try and find a suitable, safe, good way to open up the country so they can start bringing in revenue to themselves. Everybody thinks about themselves first, and then to their workers and their other people. So I just don't see the Philippines staying closed, like one guy mentioned, to 2023. I think this country would be just about bankrupt if they did. BNB says, yes, it changed yesterday. Phuket, Oh, they changed the rules yesterday? Okay, didn't catch that one. You see, that's I'll have to look at it after this live cast, because I was talking to a friend and he said he's gonna go to Thailand, Phuket in July, and he was about ready to book his ticket because he was asking me about the Philippines, and I said I don't think it'll be open by July. So I don't know. I really don't know. Everybody keeps changing. Who knows? Maybe it'll change again in 2 weeks. Sounds Online says on April 1, Thailand reduced its mandatory quarantine on arrival period from 14 days to 10 days and 7 days for vaccinated travelers. So it's going down. So that's great. So, I mean, if you're moving to Thailand, 7 days in quarantine is doable. But if you're going on a 3-week vacation, you're not going to do 7 days on quarantine. I mean, I know I'm not, and I think most people would say the same. So unless it's a type of a hotel with a lot of amenities and pool, and you can use the pool, you can go to the bar. I mean, but it's not like that, right? I mean, you're quarantined in your room for 7 days. So it's like almost like a luxury prison, if you want to call it that. And I just don't see people doing that. However, on April 29th, the government announced it has reversed course and now requires all travelers to quarantine for the full 14-day period as it battles a third wave of the virus. And I really don't understand that. If someone has had the shot, and they can prove they've had and been vaccinated, I know that the efficiency rate of them is not 100%, but I mean it's up into the 80s and 90s, right? So the chances of you having COVID and spreading it if you've had the shot is much less than the guys already in Thailand or in the Philippines. So that to me doesn't make any sense. Unless they're worried about new strains getting into the country. But look, it's going to happen sooner or later. You might as well just keep the country closed forever because new strains are coming. The one in India is going to spread all over the world. And what they got to do is basically make a new type of vaccine. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a yearly thing. From May 1, all new arrivals must quarantine for 2 weeks regardless of their vaccination status. Wow, okay. Earlier, it had been reduced to 7 days for vaccinated visitors and 10 days for others. Well, that ain't going to happen. No one's going to go on vacation to Thailand for, most people, at least in the US, they have 2 to 4, maybe if you're lucky, 5 weeks vacation. You're not going to spend 2 weeks in a hotel boxed up to go 1 or 2 weeks outside. David says, I am not going back to Thailand. I'm sick to death with their stupid games. And that's another thing. Some of these countries are shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, I remember pre-pandemic, the Thai government was implementing a lot of stricter rules for tourism and people staying in Thailand. And a lot of them started leaving to the Philippines and other countries. And it was really bad economically for Thailand. So they got to think about that too. I mean, a lot of condos are built up for tourism. A lot of tourist area are built up. What are they going to do with all that? What about all the people who have invested their money? I mean, just think about the Philippines here. In the condo units I live in, or the tower I live in, there's 2 towers. They told me it's 20 to 30% occupancy. And when I look out at night and I see how few lights are on, and I've done this a few nights, I would say it's probably less than 15% occupancy. So we're talking, 70 to 90%. How quick?
I got scared.
Okay. We're talking 70 to 90% people losing out money on their condos. I mean, again, a lot of people have bought these to rent them out on Airbnb, OFWs especially, as an investment. The price of these things are not going up, so they can't sell them. Even if they try to sell them now, they'd lose money. So they got to hold on to these till at least they start letting people in, and maybe they can sell them at that point. But so it's a bad deal for people, and it's going to get worse. I mean, you guys know the economic cycle. Once it starts going down, it starts going down fast. So if this place stays closed for another year, I see a lot of fire sales on condos. I just don't see how they, unless the government intervenes and pays the notes for people. I just don't see that happening. And if I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. Even if Rocco says, even if when tourists are vaccinated, the problem is the president's main priority is to keep his own people safe, and there's still the risk of transmitting the virus until proven otherwise. That's a good comment, Rocco. But I mean, there's different safety aspects to every country, right? There is, for example, the safety, food safety, right? So you don't want your people to starve. Really? So you don't want your people to starve. You know, I mean, there's road safety. There's all kinds of safety. There's economical safety. There's, I mean, people's lives are upended. I mean, I don't know. I just think you have to take more than one thing into consideration. I mean, yes, people are dying of this virus, but people die in road accidents. People die from the flu. People die from many other things, and you have to put those up against the COVID and see which is worse for the country as a whole. You know, so I think if you're a good politician, a good president, you're looking at that, and I'm sure the government is currently looking at that and weighing their options. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot going on in the background that we don't know and we don't understand. At least I hope it is. But sometimes I wonder, you know, especially when they came up with the plastic shield for driving a scooter. I started wondering. Okay, anyway, but that's a different story. I think Thailand's locked down again. Spoke with a buddy this morning. He needs an itinerary negative test and permission to go to the airport in another province. Oh, so they're starting to lock things down again. That's not going to be good. That's really not going to be good. I know Europe is starting to open up. I know Norway, for example. I spoke to a Norwegian friend of mine who currently lives in Norway, and he says, I think it was, oh God, I don't remember if he said by May or no, I think he said by July. July, I might be mixing up the US and Norway here, but I think he said June or July, they have plans to completely open up Norway. I mean, maskless and everything. That's my understanding. And I think the same plans is happening in the US with more and more people getting vaccinated. So, I mean, more and more countries are opening up. I said this on Geo's, Carl says, I said this on Geo's live stream, but I keep thinking the Philippines will open in October, November with no quarantine for vaccinated, 7 to 10 days quarantine for unvaccinated, I hope. Yeah, I can see that happening, Carl. That's kind of my thinking too. Me and you are on the same boat. We'll see. I mean, we'll see who's proven wrong or right. I mean, if they're not open, God, I'll be disappointed. But again, things are changing all the time, and if the situation stays the way it is, with people continuing to get vaccinated and the virus having less of an impact on the death, I mean, less and less people dying from the virus, I don't see why they wouldn't. But then again, I've been wrong before. Maybe too much of an optimist. If you go to the vow, make sure you bring your sunglasses or leave me at home. Joking. Yeah, actually, I need new sunglasses. Wait, guys, I'll show you something. So these are my sunglasses. Do you see that? And they're mirrored, but they're all scratched up now, and so they're not mirrored anymore. And I told me, look, I need new sunglasses. You know what her answer was? No, you don't. She likes seeing where my eyes go. Right, babe? Okay. What did you call down?
I asked the guy downstairs and he said, yeah, that's great.
Okay. Scott says if you, oh yeah, I read that already. Dave says Thailand rules will change 12 times before June, though. Probably. Again, hopefully they're basing their decisions on science and data and not, other things. Carl says the best place for girls is Manila and Makati due to the sheer numbers, but it's also expensive, urban, and there is air pollution. Okay, I really haven't spent any time in Makati or Manila, so but I know people who have, and I noticed one guy, he spent time in Manila, Davao, Cebu, and Dumaguete, and he told me best dating, without a doubt, was Davao. Without a doubt, those were his words. So I still put a thumbs up on Davao, but like I said, I haven't been there. Good morning, Chris. How are you? Dave Dave says 12 times. Are you kidding me? More like 258 times. Yeah. Yeah. We will see. It's going to be interesting to try to keep up with all these changes. I mean, it's as a vlogger, we try, but it's hard. I mean, it keeps changing, and we got other things to do like film and go places and do stuff. And, so it's going to be interesting. Mr. Ron says, I'm in Davao City. There are not as many Westerners here. The people are very friendly and they want to talk to you. I get flirted with, and I'm usually with my GF. So even Ron with his girlfriend gets flirted with. So I think that's a good sign, guys. Scott says, get vaccinated. I agree. Well, that's a choice people have to make. But if you want to come to Southeast Asia, yeah, I think you're going to have to be vaccinated or spend 14 days in quarantine, whichever you choose. Personally, I would choose the vaccine, but that's up to you. Thailand changed the rules with the wind bunch of idiots. Yeah, I don't know if I call them idiots, but I mean, let's look at it positively. Maybe they have more information than what we have. I don't know, but I wish they were more consistent, and explain why they're changing the rules and what's going on and what they hope to achieve. I think that's part of the problem is just total lack of communication here, and I think it's because they don't have uh, the kind of historical democracies that we have in the West, and we get a kind of more of an explanation. Okay, we're making these changes because A, B, and C, because they always know there's an election around the corner, so they got to explain themselves. Here, they just make changes and no one knows why. They just follow the rules, which is not a good thing, but hopefully with time it'll change here too, as these are, like the Philippines hasn't been a democracy for long. So hopefully it'll change. Uh, Prefer the Moderna, Pfizer, and Moderna. Okay, I I think I would prefer the Johnson and Johnson one, just one shot and you're done. Which is your favorite country you have lived in? Oh, that's a good question, man. Every country I've lived in, I've loved for different reasons. I can tell you some of the countries I've lived in. I've lived in Egypt, United Arab Emirates. I've lived in Norway, England, Spain, and the US, and now the Philippines. And each country has had something wonderful. I've loved all of the countries actually. I mean, I love Norway. I love England. I love the US. Philippines. I love the Philippines. So the favorite. I think it depends on your age also. Like, I think right now, if I was to choose which country to live in, it would either be the Philippines where I live or maybe Spain, um, based on my experience. But for me, at this time in my life, if I was in my 20s or 30s or early 40s, I think it would be the US without a doubt, because the US has some great companies and it's all about work, and it's a great work environment, I think. So, yeah, I think the US is also a great country. So, but would I want to retire in the US? Probably not, just because of the healthcare system is so expensive, and um, it's a very expensive country to live in, um, especially if you're not working. Because if you work in the US, you usually get health insurance if you have a good job anyway. So Barwin says, sorry to hear you're a US citizen. You get to pay taxes to the US government no matter where you live or work. Haha. Just give you a hard time. Well, there are some good things that come with that. I will get a pension when I'm 62 from the US. So there are good things with that. And the US it's a good country. I mean, overall, they've done great things in the world. Uh, they saved Europe's ass in the Second World War, that's for sure. So yeah. So yeah, I'm glad I spent 20 plus years in the US. Everyone has a choice. The more people who avoid the vaccine, the more COVID will spread and mutate, which creates opportunity for much worse mutations. So head in the sand thinking won't work. Yeah, but I yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Can't argue that point, but at the same time, you can't make it mandatory. But I've heard, like for example, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I live, there's very few people left that want to be vaccinated. They have thousands of vaccines, and there's only like a trickle of people coming in daily. And it seems like the areas that tend to lean Republican tend not to want to take the vaccine, while the areas that, I don't want to make this a political discussion, it's just what I've observed. The areas that lean Democratic seem to be more willing to take the vaccine so yeah. Check PRA SRRV for over 50 is opening soon. That's what I saw on one YouTube channel, but I couldn't find, they talked about May 10th, but I couldn't find anything. And so I don't know. I mean, that might be a good thing for me to apply for if I decide to stay here. But right now I'm not. I think my plans is to move on to a different country within a year or so. So I'll probably head back to Norway for a few months or maybe a few years. I don't know. The B113's question mark COVID variant is the one spreading the most in the USA, 60% more contagious and 40% more deadly to the unvaccinated. The current vaccine works versus. Oh, okay. So the vaccine works against it for now. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a good point there. If everybody took the vaccine, I guess we'd stop the mutations, at least in the US. Exactly. No way I'll quarantine. I don't think anybody would agree. Well, a very small percentage would. So I think basically the tourist industry is dead in the water, and it's going to be bankruptcy sooner or later. I'm from Oklahoma, moved to California, retiring in the Philippines. Okay, good to know. Did you decide where in the Philippines, or are you going to move around? My suggestion is move around. Ralph asks, hey, Paul, are there any condos with 2 bedrooms in your block? I don't know. I looked at a 1 bedroom, but if I'm going to guess, I would say probably, but I don't know. I can ask. Just, you know what? I've had that question before. I'll ask and see, just to know if there are. I don't know if there are any available. Let's see. I lost track again. That's to Barwin. Ricky should go back, open his own quarantine resort, and show them how it's done. Yes. What an ordeal Ricky had, man. What an ordeal. I have friends in Vietnam. The government is incredibly strict. They are talking only opening when 70% vaccinated with a vaccine. They have used and possibly travel bubbles before that. That's from Daryl in Australia, or from Australia, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I don't get why people who are already vaccinated from the US or Europe can't go. How do you say that? Quartaro City says, had high hopes for Baguio. Only thing I liked was cool climate. Very bad traffic. People are very nice as always in the Philippines. Yes, the traffic is horrendous there. I have to agree to that. But I'm hoping there's some places outside of Baguio proper. So we'll see. Again, that's many, many months in the future, and I'll probably start looking a couple of months before I decide to travel. Moving to Philippines, no more California taxes. Well, if you're a U.S. citizen, I think you still have to pay state taxes, I believe. So you might want to just move to Texas for convenience before you move to the Philippines. Cebu for GF, trust me. I trust you on that one, Kenny. Alex says Dumaguete is the best. I don't agree on that one. Dumaguete is brownout city. There's at least 2 planned brownouts and a bunch of unplanned brownouts, what we call in the West blackouts, basically. And then there's bad internet. I had PLTD fiber that was supposed to be 30 M up and 30 down. Sometimes it would crawl down to less than 1, especially if it rained. I mean, how can rain affect fiber? I don't even get that. And here I get a constant 30 to 35 up and a 30 to 35 down. No problem on the fiber here. So bad internet, bad electric grid, bad roads, lots of traffic, polluted. People can't drive worth shit over there. I'm sorry. They really can't. I mean, it's horrendous driving over there compared to Cebu. So, yeah, I'm not moving back to Dumaguete. I can tell you that. Maybe Valencia, but never back to Duma or Bacong or any of those places. But I'd only move back to Valencia if, for example, they had a gym there and had opened like some type of grocery stores. I wouldn't have to venture into Dumaguete at all. Yeah, not the place for me anymore. Like having stayed here in Cebu for a couple of months now, I just have no regrets leaving Dumaguete. Don't mean to put Dumaguete down or nothing, but it's better here. It's better here. And maybe after a few months here, I decide, there's stuff I don't like here, but right now I love it. Be interested to see that gym. Yeah, I mean, it might be nothing. I mean, I might go in there, it might be like a hole in the wall, not worth even signing up, but it might be a great gym. I don't know. I'll go by probably next week and look at it. Barwin says, PX is a scientist. PX, can you tell us if it's possible for the virus to mutate basically indefinitely and become like the flu, where vaccines are only guesses and just partially effective? I think you'll find that is the case. It already started mutating, so why would it not continue mutating? Since you lived in Louisiana, did you see a lot of alligators and there and eat gator before? Yeah, I ate gator meat. It tastes just like chickens, like they say in Matrix. They couldn't figure out how to make it taste, so they make it taste like chicken. But did I see any? Nope, I did not see any. Do all streaming apps jump from Bill? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Is my video jumping? I can't see my own video, but I assume it's good because I haven't heard anything. So seems like older guys like Dumaguete better than the younger ones. Yeah, maybe it's because there's a lot of older guys there and they like to go to the bars and hang out and talk to each other about whatever they talk about, and maybe more the social life is the thing there, while if you're younger you want to explore, you want to find a place that's more vibrant. Maybe it has something to do with that. Mr. Ron says, Dumaguete is the opposite of Davao City. I rarely see expats here. I'm the only one in our neighborhood. Exactly. So to me, that's much more enticing than living in a place full of expats. I don't know. Do you really want to come to the Philippines and just be around other expats? I prefer the life here, and I'm probably gonna go to Davao, and when I do, we're gonna meet up for a coffee, Mr. Ron. PX is answering Barwin, but I want to read this out. Yes, of course, as long as there are active hosts, it will indefinitely mutate. Exactly. Replication errors are a big one because viral polymerases do not have an error check mechanism, unlike eukaryotic. I don't know how you say that, but okay. But basically, what the PX is saying, yes, they'll mutate indefinitely till I mean, just like the flu, and that's kind of what I said. But he said it in a much more scientific way. So well done, PX. JL Mark says, "Hey Paul, Jess from LA saying hello to everyone. Missed Geo's early livecast, but hoping the PI opens soon. Wondering the logic of closing borders to either non-infected people or vaccinated people. The non-infected people, I think you don't know because you can be asymptomatic, right? So even if you do a swab test, they're only accurate to a certain amount. So I can understand that. But the vaccinated people, also the efficiency rate of the vaccinations in the US, I think vary between 75 and 95%, if I remember correctly. So there's always a small percentage that can have. So I think what they're mostly scared of is the mutations. So I I don't know. I think it's gone. If you ask me personally, I think it's gone too far. You know, I was all about the shutdowns, the lockdowns, but now with the vaccines, they need to start opening up. Not too fast, but they need to start opening up in a way that helps the economy, in a way that also stops mutations from coming in. So people who are vaccinated, as an example. So that's my feeling on it. But hey, I'm not running the country. And like I said, maybe they know more than us. Greeting, fellow failures. Good morning, MedTech. PX says, yeah, it will be a yearly shot like the flu where they send in the variants they believe will be most prominent in the next 6 months or so. Yeah, that's what I've been saying. That's has been my belief as well. So get ready for a COVID shot yearly, I guess. India should have more mutations than anywhere else on the earth. Yeah, because they just have more people, more dense. The density of the population is just out there. Um, we just want to avoid a jump from a UK with a death rate of 1.63 to a new one that shoots up to 3 or to 4%. And what's happening in India right now is horrendous. I mean, they're burning bodies all over the place of people dying. So and the hospitals are running out of oxygen is what I saw in the news. So people that could have been saved are actually dying. So it's a pretty bad situation. But I know now a lot of countries are sending vaccines to India. India has a really good pharmaceutical industry there. So they were actually shipping out a lot of vaccines, but I guess they're using them now, and also um, they're going to start have to produce more oxygen for the hospitals and all that. So I guess they're ramping up their production, and that they didn't see this coming is, I think, says something about the quality of the politicians. But I'm not here to put any country down. Pfizer is 100%, really? I think last time I saw it, they were like 90 plus. I didn't think they were 100%, but that's if it is, that's amazing. It means 100% efficiency. I'm assuming Scott means. So yeah, that's a great thing. Okay, that's to Barwin. Back to Daryl. Worth remembering that Thailand's plans are based on 70% of the population being vaccinated. So, okay, so they're saying if the island of Phuket is vaccinated, then they will open up for quarantine less travel, I'm assuming. Visitors from Australia can't even get flights back from Thailand. You travel there, you're going to get stuck there. Well, not a bad place to be stuck, really. I don't know. I'd rather be stuck in Thailand than Australia, personally. I haven't been to Australia, so I shouldn't say, but Thailand looks like a really nice place to be stuck. Just like the Philippines. I don't mind being stuck here. It's actually kind of nice. Population of density of Philippines is 368 per square kilometer. Population density of India is 382 per square kilometer. Is that right, really? I don't know if that's right. I'll have to check that. India seems a lot more dense than here, man. Just a lot more dense. Pfizer 100% effective. Moderna is 94 or 96. So it was the Moderna one I was thinking of in the 90s. Okay. Thanks for that, Scott. So I guess I'll get what about the Johnson & Johnson one? They are the mRNA vaccines. Okay, that new technology. Okay. Hawaii has been letting tourists in since October 15th with a negative test. They aren't having a big spike. Good point there. And I think some of these countries are looking at other countries and learning from them, right? They're looking at Hawaii, they're looking at Thailand, they're looking at all these other countries and saying, okay, what are they doing and what is the consequences of what they're doing, you know? And then they're going to base it on that. Some countries are followers, some other countries are leaders. Every country are suffering the economy, no doubt about it. However, if the mutation goes really bad, locals will suffer the most. Expats will go back to their own dungeons. Their own condos or their own countries? What do you mean by dungeons? I mean, countries like the Philippines and India suffer the most because they are poor countries with not a lot of resources. So countries like the US and Western Europe and Japan and all that have a lot of resources suffer obviously less because they can treat more patients and treat them more efficiently, and they can create vaccines and all that. So, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. If things start mutating here and really gets bad here, it's going to get really bad. But again, I think it's something you have to weigh up. You have to weigh up the economy versus the health risks, because with a bad economy, you also have health risks. You have suicides, you have families disintegrating, and you have a lot of bad stuff going on. I agree with you, Paul, about the Philippines, but Duterte seems so hell-bent on not opening until Filipinos are vaccinated, which technically is never going to happen. Like I said, there's an election next year, so hopefully he will change his mind. They tend to change their minds here when the election comes up. We just have to remember that this is absolutely isn't about keeping people safe. It's about keeping people under control. From Bob. You know, I don't know about that. What, not letting people travel? I don't know if that's control or not, but yeah, that's interesting point, Bob. I put it to you that it won't open until he is out, which will be, when was it? May or June 2022, I think the election is. So next year sometime. Okay. I don't know. Once Australia opens, I will look seriously at Europe for a year or two. Oh, to go to Australia? I mean, to go to Europe? Hey, if you go to Europe, think about Spain. Beautiful country. Also, Italy is great. Greece is fantastic. Portugal. I hear a lot of good stuff about Portugal. So southern Europe is nice and relatively cheap. Actually, parts of Spain are cheaper to live in than the Philippines, believe it or not, and higher quality. So yeah. My plan is sometime in the future to spend a year or two in southern Europe. There is risk to everything. Going to work, crossing the street. There have been twice as many deaths in the US from heart disease than from COVID. Yes, true. That's a good point, Carl. There's risk in everything, but the counterpoint is there's over 500,000 people died in the US from COVID, according to the statistics. And that's despite all the lockdowns and wearing masks and all the stuff we did. Can you imagine what it would be like if we just lived life like normal? So that's despite. So I think we have to take it seriously, but not cower down to it. If that's, let's see what. Oh, that's a good question from Borwin. When a virus mutates for decades into thousands of variants, and this is to PX, is there a tendency for it to evolve to become less deadly, or is there no correlation there? I'll let PX answer that, but from my understanding, yes, it becomes less deadly because if it kills the host, it can't really spread. So it tends to become less deadly, is my understanding. But PX would be the guy to answer that. Kev Monty says, I think everyone should stop calling it a vaccine. It's an experimental shot. The work vaccine gives people a false sense of security. God bless everyone. I don't know, when there's 100% efficiency where people are not dying from it, I think it is a vaccine. Yeah, is it experimental? I mean, all vaccines to some degree are experimental when they first come out, right? Pfizer is not 100% effective. In fact, the CEO of Pfizer and biotech came out and stated that their vaccines begin to lose efficiency after 6 months and a booster will be needed. Okay. But I think it's 100% efficient for a certain amount of time. I don't think any vaccine is efficient all your life, right? You always have to have some type of booster. Scott says, Paul, you're not getting off that easy thinking you can run when things open up and leave me wondering why you never come back to the condo. Paul catches the first flight out. No, it's not like that. We haven't quite decided what to do yet. And I've said things are constantly changing in the world. Job situations are changing in the world. I haven't even decided what I want to do. I mean, I'm only 53. I'm going to be 54 in July. So, hopefully I live another 40, 50 years. And I mean, do I want to be doing this for the next 40, 50 years? No, I want to be doing something else. So I don't know. I have to look into what possibilities I have because, the older you get, the less possibilities you seem to have job-wise. And so I want to get back to doing something. I really do. I don't... these last 2.5 years in the Philippines have been fun, but I think I'll end up doing something else for a few years. Maybe go work in Norway for a few years just to get back to my roots for a while, and then see after that. We'll see. Or maybe go back. I've also contemplated going to the Middle East if there's any opportunities there, and or the US. So we'll see. Life is dynamic, things happen, and then a few years later you see it happen for something good or something bad, and you go from that. So Daryl, you can leave now if you're leaving longer than 3 months. Okay. Christopher, hey to you, Christopher, in Guam. For the most part, logic does not exist in the East. It is originated in the West, and I wonder if it still exists here as well. I wonder the same thing too. This world seems to become less and less logical. But, according to our logic, maybe people have a different logic than us. So, proof of vaccine and COVID test on arrival with results should be available within 24 hours. And if you're negative, quarantine is not necessary. That's a good point, PW. Really good point. Jim says, howdy, Paul. What did I miss? Lol. When is the Philippines opening? Lol. Mia must be glad to be there, eh? Well, I'll start with the last question first. She is as happy as can be. I don't think I've ever seen her happier. She loves the life here. She loves the condo living and all the amenities. And so she loves it here. She doesn't... she misses her family in Duma, but she doesn't miss Duma itself. So yeah, what did you miss? We just talked about COVID and countries opening. When is it opening up? Well, I still think this year, by the end of this year, it'll be open. Jim says he got the Moderna shot in February and there were no issues. Okay. The lockdowns here are very inconsistent. What is the rule for the same CQ can be entirely different? Yeah, I know. That's one of the issues here in the Philippines. It's different rules. They've tried to streamline it. I mean, they did come out and try to streamline everything, but then all these barangays and islands decided to do their own thing, like Cebu. No swab test. Bohol, you need a swab test. I really want to go to Bohol. I want to visit my friend there. A Norwegian friend, a childhood friend that we've been friends. We actually came to the Philippines together, and I would love to go visit him and stay in Bohol for a month, but I can't. I mean, I can if I want to do a swab test, but I'm not gonna do a swab test. So, they're losing out a lot of money. People, it's not just me. I'm sure there's thousands and thousands of people in Cebu that would like to go to Bohol, and then they're losing out on that money. So, and all these resorts are losing out, and it's a sad situation. I think the Philippines is more conducive to Western men than others. Thailand is nice, but not a lot for expats. I don't know. Like I said, I have not been to Thailand, but I've heard dating in Thailand is relatively easy, and I know people who have been to the Philippines and Thailand and prefer Thailand, and I know people who have been to Thailand and the Philippines and prefer Philippines. So I think it's all dependent on you. I've heard that dating in the Philippines is better, but the infrastructure in Thailand is better. The food in Thailand is better. The culture, the history and all that in Thailand is more, uh, you know, more alive, for lack of other words. So yeah, I wouldn't mind. I mean, Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. I'd like to go to Malaysia first, and then Vietnam, and then Thailand. And those three countries I intend to visit in the next 2 to 3 years. You know what, Daryl? I was in Spain in 2004. I lived there for 6 months, and at the time I was married, so I have no idea. But it's a Western country, so I can't imagine it's very good. It's like any other Western countries with a lot of feminists and a lot of negative association with age gap dating. So I just I just can't imagine it being very good. I mean, is it better than the US? Probably. Doesn't take much to be better than the US. Um, I mean, women there seem more fit than the US counterpart. So I would say, um, and I can't compare it to Australia since I haven't been to Australia. So, but yeah, I would say it's probably okay, good to okay. And you being from Australia, you're different, and but it's nothing like the Philippines. I can guarantee you that. Um, Drew is getting his second Pfizer shot on Tuesday. Okay, well, good luck with that, man. Hopefully, no side effects and no pains or aches. It is as Scott says, it is an RNA-based virus, dormant until it attaches to DNA, but extremely dangerous when mutations come about. The risks get higher the more it spreads. Okay. Mr. Ron says, I'm an American. I love my country. That will never change. Yeah, true. Me too. I'm also a U.S. citizen, and I love the U.S. And um, without the U.S., I think this world would be in a much, much worse place. Hopefully, China never takes over, because then we'll all be in a bad place. Just my opinion. But what is Ricky? Is that the first show I got 3 weeks ago is leaving my arm bruised, and you can see the injection site. But what is freaky is that the first shot I got 3 weeks ago is leaving my arm bruised, and you can see the injection site. Oh, okay. So bruised arm. There's so much different reactions to the vaccine. Some people have no reactions. Some people have bad reactions. So I think it's really dependent on the person. Some data out about a month ago showed that for every 18 million, about 68 or is it 86 mutations occur. 18 million transmissions you're talking about? But of them, only 3 are as bad or worse than the original it spawned from. Okay. So for every 18 million transmissions. Okay. So that seems low, but I'm not a scientist in that field, so I don't know. Left to run its course through the whole population, we might see a version killing 5% of those affected. But also, have you noticed, I mean, if you look at the statistics, it's really the very old people and people with underlying issues that are dying. People who are healthy like me, or you work out, you don't have any underlying issues, the death rate is extremely low. So there's that also. Stay healthy, people. Take your vitamins and exercise and eat healthy. You should be doing that anyway, but stay healthy. Hey, Paul, been looking into San Carlos. If I were to retire there, I hear it comes highly recommended. Haven't been to San Carlos, so I would have to look into that. But I can't either recommend it or not recommend it. Okay. Can you hold on a second? Sorry. Mia's taking a shower and she had the door open, so the sound of the shower was kind of. I lost my mom, 93, and my oldest brother, 74, 5 weeks apart last summer from the COVID, I'm assuming. Yeah, it really affects the older generation, which is sad. But, it's a sad situation. But yeah. I'm sure if people would be more open and eager to get vaccinated, countries would open up their borders much faster. Yeah, I agree. So we can fly from Texas to Thailand, then fly to Philippines visa free? No, there's no flying to the Philippines now. They were talking about opening Phuket in Thailand, making that quarantine less. So no quarantines in July. But somebody corrected me and said they've actually changed their minds again. So I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to have to do some research after this live cast and see exactly what's going on. Because like I said earlier, a friend of mine was actually planning to go there in July because of that. So he'll probably, I don't know if he's bought his ticket or not, but if he has, he'll probably have to cancel that ticket. And that's another thing. If they keep changing, I mean, if Thailand keeps changing its mind and Philippines keeps changing, well, Philippines hasn't really opened up, but if Thailand keeps changing its mind on things like that, people will just stop booking tickets because you can't keep booking tickets and canceling and losing money all the time. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Sadly, boosters will be required every so often because we will never reach herd immunity because so many refuse to get a vaccine that would allow the population needed to reach it. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. These vaccines were created in a rush. Usually it takes 5 to 10 years to analyze safety before releasing. Who knows what the ramifications are years down the road. I agree with you. However, the consequences of not releasing them as quickly as I did, I think would have been a lot worse. And also the technology has changed a lot today with the DNA sequencing and the power of computers to calculate things and run different scenarios. It just completely changed things. We're not talking, this is not the 60s or the 70s anymore. I mean, it really, really has changed. The bio industry has changed it completely. So it's just biotech. I mean, it's completely changed it. So I don't think you can compare it to what it was when I was growing up in my teens and 20s and they were developing vaccines. I mean, it's a different environment. Should it have been tested longer? Yes, but myself, I think it's safe. I don't think they would. I don't think we'll all be dying of some disease 10 years down the line. I just don't see it. Hey, Paul, Gio mentioned the recent change on entry. I found the press release on the Bureau of Immigration Facebook page. I sent an email to Gio. Okay. I will. You send it to him, but not to me. Okay. Thanks a lot, man. A joke. Mia, stop it. Mia's teasing me. I won't tell you what she's doing, but she's teasing me. I threatened to turn the camera around and she disappeared. Just across the border from California to Nevada, no state taxes. On second thought, don't come. We don't want no more California libs here. Yeah, that's happening in Texas, actually. Texas is becoming more liberal based on everybody coming from California. It's starting to lean more Democratic than Republican. They're saying that state is going to go Democratic in the next few elections. So we'll see. That's going to be interesting. That will change the whole dynamic. Really, really change the dynamic. It's just the people who don't want to get vaccinated scream the loudest for the borders to open. That's a good point, Rocco. Yeah, that's a good point. But I understand people who don't want to be vaccinated. I mean, especially if you don't have a background in science and you don't understand how all this works, and you hear of people having issues after being vaccinated. I can understand the hesitancy. I mean, I would be hesitant. You just don't know what the vaccine will lead to. But then again, we've I took I've taken I've taken a bunch of vaccines growing up, and I don't think my parents knew the consequences of that long term, like 10, 15, 20 years down the line. I mean, no one really knows, right? So I think in general it's safe. Your body has a way of fighting stuff and making sure that you don't die, right? So no, he won't have to pay state tax if he doesn't live in the state. He would continue to pay property tax if he keeps property in the US. Yeah, that's true. The best thing that everybody should do for COVID is live a healthy lifestyle and boost your immune system. Absolutely right. Eat healthy so you get your vitamins and minerals, exercise, at least 3 times a week, and lose weight if you're overweight. All that stuff is really, really important. Make sure your vitamin D levels are correct. Take a blood test to make sure your levels are correct in all the different vitamins, and take supplements if you need to. So all these things are important. And I think if people were a lot healthier, in the US, we've had a lot of people die, but I think if people were I mean, you've seen the state of the health in the US for some people. I mean, I think if the US were all like healthy people, working out, eating healthy and everything, I think we wouldn't have 500,000 dead, maybe 50,000 or 100,000. So yeah. Thomas said, I didn't want to get the vaccine, but I needed to get to the Philippines to be with my girlfriend. Yeah, well, that's a good reason. Alex, tell that to people above 400 pounds. Good luck. Yes, there are a lot of overweight people, and it is. Wait, I need to plug my laptop in. It's not a good thing. So if you are overweight, hit the gym, eat healthy. Scott says the concept of mRNA tech is like 50 years old. mRNA tech was finally advanced since the late 80s and 90s, but mostly used on animals, etc., until COVID hit the US. Okay, good to know. Thanks, Scott. Why doesn't China step up and give Philippines the vaccine doses they need? They started this mess. Yeah, they do have a vaccine, but I think the efficient rate is less than 60%. I think it's like 50-something percent. So there's that. And would I take the Chinese vaccine? Absolutely not. And if they said I had to, I'd leave the country. So I'm not touching anything from China, putting that in my body. The reason for developing vax faster is thanks to software and computers. Yeah, that's what I was talking about too. Yeah, they can simulate a lot of stuff now. So yeah, that did not exist back when the polio was an issue. And I mean, computers have existed for a while, but the power of the computers today, are like thousands of times so much more powerful. So SRRV visa applications are open. Philippines announced they will accept entries to visa holders in May. Yeah, but those are people who already hold a visa, right? So, but they're not accepting new applications, I think. Are they? I haven't seen anything about it. So I looked for it yesterday. I couldn't find anything. So unless there's some type of announcement today, and I think you have to be inside the country to apply for the SRRV visa, I believe. I agree with you. Mr. Ron says, I agree with you. There are a lot of bad points to Dumaguete. One reason every would-be expat wants to go there is because there are so many vloggers there. Yeah, I'd like to address that point. The reason I went to, and I'll be honest, to Dumaguete is because of vloggers. Specifically, two vloggers, Ricky, and he has a great channel. You guys can go watch Ricky's channel, and Ned. And I saw, because you get, like when you watch a vlog about a place, you kind of start feeling like it's it's kind of like a home and second home, you know, because you see the restaurants, you see the beaches, you see the roads, you see the traffic, you see all that, but you don't really get the impression before you move there. So yeah, the vloggers have made Dumaguete very, very popular, and there are more and more and more vloggers in Dumaguete, so it seems to attract more people. But now some vloggers are actually leaving. They've had it with Duma, so me being one of them, Geo being another. So, I mean, there are some good points to Dumaguete. Don't get me wrong, but it's just I just don't want to stay there anymore. It's just too much pollution and too much negative things that I've mentioned already. But there are good points to it. The governments from around the world should just say the vaccine gives all men a bigger and all women a rich boyfriend, and we should be good travel within a few hours. Yeah, we'd all want the vaccine, I guess, except some people, I guess. I'd love to meet up for a coffee, Paul. I will even buy, and I'm cheap. No worries. I'll buy my own coffee, Mr. Ron, but we'll have to meet up. It'd be awesome to meet up. Drew says, I can tell for a fact if you're fully vaccinated, you can still be asymptomatic and spread. Haven't heard that, but the scientists in the House PX will either have to confirm or deny that. Maybe for a certain period after you've taken the vaccine, till it has a full efficiency. But I don't think that is right, because if that's the case, they ain't letting anybody into these countries. The Philippines has many vaccine choices. They just don't have the infrastructure to administer it. Well, they have a lot of hospitals and nurses, so they should be able to administer it. Is the Phuket sandbox going to happen in June? I read July, but some people have told me that's not going to happen now. So, as I said, I need to do some research after the live cast. But my understanding was July from what I read yesterday. But someone said that's changed. They're being cautious because it hasn't been proven that the vaccine stopped transmission. They do need to sort that out ASAP. Okay. So they probably don't have enough data to say one way or the other. The Pfizer is 100% to keep you out of the hospital. Okay, so you might get the COVID and might have flu-like symptoms, but you're not that sick that you need to go to a hospital. Okay. I get my first vaccine this coming Monday, but the Australian government are not letting anyone leave. I think that if you are vaccinated, I should be allowed to travel again, hopefully by the end of the year. Yeah, I think that Australia is like so strict, man. I mean, if I'm an Australian guy and I want to migrate to another country and they won't even let me leave, I don't know. I can understand they say if you leave, you can't come back till we get this sorted out, but that they won't let you leave is actually, I don't know. Here, PX says there's actually a federal study underway to correctly answer that question. So if it's spreading or not. So so they don't know yet, basically. Ralph said, Australia is a great place to be stuck. No restrictions on the Gold Coast or elsewhere. Okay, good to know. But the population density in the Philippines has an advantage. It's made up of thousands of islands. Yeah, that's true. Instead of one big country like India. Good point, Scott. The difference in efficiency of the vaccines are only perceived differences, says Barwin. The trials, placebo-controlled, were done during different times and virus waves and spikes. That's why efficiencies. Okay, so you're saying it's affected by when the trials were done. Good point. Good point. I agree with you, Paul, says McTech. The caution has gone too far. On a selfish note, I haven't seen my Thai girlfriend since January 2020. I shall submit to quarantine if the vaccinated aren't exempted soon. Well, if you're going there to stay, I mean, a 14-day quarantine isn't that bad if you're going to plan to stay for a year or two. I mean, percentage-wise, the year or two is very small, right? But for a vacation, no. Barwin says out as a different percentage for each of them, but they are basically all the same efficiency. Okay. Hey guys, I'm going to go on for about 15 more minutes, and then I'll have to call it a day. Carl says, I have both shots from Pfizer vaccine back in March. Now I'm getting COVID tested here at work every 2 weeks. So far, so good for all 3 tests I've taken. Okay. Good to know, Carl. If you got the other vaccines, just avoid using ibuprofen for a week before and after sub it with Tylenol if you need over the counter. I wonder why that is. Mr. Ron says, I wish I was stuck here. I wouldn't have to worry about them opening up so I can do my in and out in February. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that are coming up towards the 3 year, but I know people who have been applied for extensions or exception to leaving the country, and they've gotten it for 2 months and 6 months. So never had a flu shot, haven't had the flu shot in 30 years. Neither have I. But I'll take the vaccine. Sounds Online said, Jenny is racist. LOL. Foreigners go back to dungeons. Racism is bad. Okay, Jenny? Well, it's not a racist thing because there's different foreigners of different foreigners have different color skin, so it's not really based on race. It's based on all foreigners. Joke. Okay, that's for Carl. That's for Warren. Scott says, but could you spread it someone without the vaccine? Possibly the data is not fully out on all of them yet. Yep. I don't think we have enough data. I think that's an agreed upon point there. So yeah, Barwin says it depends on what you're comparing it to. The efficiency rate, is it against moderate disease or against hospitalization and death? Yeah, I'm not sure what they compare it to. I think it's probably hospitalization, but I don't know. Many places in South America are cheaper to live than in the Philippines. Yes, that's true. And also, many places in South America are open for Filipinos, visa free. So Costa Rica being one of them. Jenny de Morena says, I'm not a racist, LOL. It's a fact. If things going to get worse, will you stay Sound Online 79? Just like India, question mark. I doubt it. Of course you're going to go back to your country, question mark. Depends how bad it gets. I mean, if all the hospitals are full and they don't have oxygen and you haven't had the vaccine shot, yeah, and you're like in your 70s or 80s, probably be a good idea to go home. I'm just stating the fact, not a racist. I think he was kind of joking with you, Jenny. I wouldn't take it that too seriously. Vaccine isn't stopping transmission. It's only affecting severe symptoms unless you react badly. I don't think that's established, JK. From what people are saying here, it's actually not established. So we don't know yet. There's a study going on about it. So we'll probably know in a few months. Mr. Ron says, I don't really worry about the virus. When I was about 5, I figured out something was going to kill me sooner or later, and it wasn't going to do any good worrying about it. That's true, but you can, just like driving a car, you put on a safety belt, right? At least I do, just in case something bad happens, right? So you got to worry a bit in life. You got to take precautions, like stay healthy, take your vitamins, check your vitamins level, and so on. So Mike Tech says he's interested in Chile, but there's currently a 10-day quarantine. Well, you got to look at different countries and see where they don't have quarantine, where you can go in without a problem and just go. Sooner or later, all these countries are going to open up. Is that nice Vietnamese restaurant still there at the big Ayala Mall? Coming from Bobby. Vietnamese restaurant in Ayala? I haven't seen it. I've only been to Ayala twice since I came back here. So what floor is it on? Just so I might go look for it. Let me know, Bobby. Also, no politician ever said that the restrictions are there to keep the virus from happening. It was also about keeping hospitals from being overwhelmed, flattening the curve since the start. Correct. That's absolutely that's a good point, Barwin. The virus is going to happen. It's unstoppable. They knew that as soon as they saw it under a microscope. I think we knew that as soon as we saw it in China. Um, Tom says, "Hi, Paul. You have a great laugh and info. Thanks from Canada." You're welcome, Tom. It wasn't the blessing of your God. I reference whoever wrote, "God bless everyone." Mayo Gansam. Hi, Mayo. Is the Visayan that Mia speaks understood in Cebu, where you are, or does she need to speak English there to be understood? No, it's almost the same. They understand Negros Visayan, understand Cebu Visayan. There's no problem. Why do you not want a swab test? Because if I do a swab test and then I'm positive, I have to go quarantine in a hotel for 14 days, and I don't want to do that. And it might be a false positive. So, and it costs like 4 or 5 thousand pesos, and just to go there. I mean, I'm going to stay there a month. I guess that's okay. But if I'm going for a weekend, I'm not going to pay that kind of money for a weekend and take a chance that it's a fake positive or it is positive, and I have to go spend 14 days in a hotel somewhere. If I could home quarantine, that would be one thing. But going to a hotel somewhere and eating some bad food for 14 days, and after Ricky's ordeal, my God, I don't want to take that chance. Hi, Paul. Tell Mia for her not to get bored. She can come and visit me in my condo since I'm alone, and I can show her around for you to have more time. Jenny de Morena, what do you live in Newtown? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I thought it's a guy.
No. Jay Hunt, not being critical, but please work on your pronunciation of Bohol. Bohol?
Bohol.
Bohol?
It's Bohol.
Bohol.
It's
Bohol.
not Bohol.
Not Bohol, but Bohol.
Yeah, because it's oh, you should sound it.
Bohol. Okay.
Bohol.
Thanks for that, Jay Hunt. No, it's you're not being critical, just correcting me. That's okay. What about China having its foot on the PI? Oh God, yeah. It's a bad thing. It's a bad thing, and they really the Philippines in general needs to make a choice, a difficult choice, which way direction they're going to go. And I think I don't want to say too much, but I think the next election will show you where the Philippines is headed, and if they're headed towards China, it's not going to be good for the Philippines. Let me put it that way. I just I just don't think China is a good deal. I think China is a really bad deal, and they're a communist dictatorship, and the values they bring to the world is not a good, and they try to roughshod everybody in the end, and it's not a good deal. It's not a good deal at all. It's gonna the Philippines might think they're getting a good deal, but in the end, it's going to be a bad deal. I'll leave it at that. Malapasca Morena, good morning. How are you? Malapasca Morena has a YouTube channel if you guys want to check her out. You say no, idea, you're freaking okay. I don't get it. Dating in Thailand is the same as dating in let's track here, as dating in the Philippines for expats. Everything else is better in Thailand. Really? Not what I heard. I heard dating here is better, but like I said, never been to Thailand, and if I go, it'll be with Mia, so I won't experience the dating anyway. But that's what I heard from other people. Tim says, "Hi, Paul. New here from following Gino's channel. Thanks for coming to my channel, Tim. Comment about people dying from more other diseases in the States than COVID. Hospitals were overwhelmed. The cases like India is now." Not sure what you mean. To your channel, comment about people dying from other diseases in the States than COVID. Well, that's actually been a problem. I think I know what you're trying to say here. That people are actually dying from other diseases because they can't get into the hospital. Like, for example, a good example is people have a yearly checkup for cancer, right? And they haven't been able to go for their yearly checkup. Well, an X amount, a certain percentage of those people have cancer and would have been caught early enough where they could done something about it. And a year later, maybe it's too late. So more people will die of cancer and so on and so on. So yes, it's not just the COVID deaths. There's other deaths that are going to come in the future because of that, because of the hospitals being full. I think that's what you're saying, and I agree with that. I sure hope Philippine follows. You mean Thailand if they open up? Yeah, me too, man. The way the Philippines treated Ricky, I think a lot of expats will find a new place. Yeah, that was a bad ordeal, a really bad ordeal. But Ricky is planning to come back, so he likes the place. So it's a nice place. The government here can be very bureaucratic and not coordinated, but the people here are nice in general. So there's that. I love it here. So I'm got my second Moderna shot, and my 5G reception is much better. Okay. Thanks for that, Dave. Tim says, took my second Pfizer shot, just a sore arm. So all is good. Marwan said, let's peer pressure PX into making this vaccine a nasal spray. Nobody likes needles, PX. I got the first shot yesterday and it's a tiny needle, but I'd rather still get the nose spray. Get on it, PX. Good stuff. Paul, you're correct about USA. 100%, I'm telling you. What am I correct about? I've said so much in this live cast. I don't know exactly what you're referring to here. About it being a good place to live, you mean? Yeah. Stay thirsty, my friend. Yep. Always. Pfizer and Moderna, 95% efficiency according to CDC. No vaccine is 100%. Okay. News update. SRRV visa holders can come into Philippines if they have a valid visa. Okay. That just flashed across the news, I guess, since Geo's updating us. Plus, you need an entry exception form. Okay. I'll have to Google that afterwards. If everyone stayed in their own countries they are born for the last 50 years, we would have any of these problems: global warming, overpopulation, US decline. I don't know if that's true. The problem in the world is not travel. The problem in the world is overpopulation. I don't think that's caused by travel. Does travel create more pollution? Of course it does, but I don't think that's where most pollution comes from. I think that's a very small percentage. And I don't think the US is declining. I think the US is winning. Just like in, I don't know if you remember in the 80s, everybody said Japan would be the new superpower and Japan was going to overtake the US. And what happened? No, the system in the US is a really good system. And I just think compared to the Chinese system with dictatorship, dictatorship never wins because the good ideas never bubble up to the top. The people in charge decide what to do, and they don't always have the best interest of people, and they don't have the best interest of certain companies. So, but even though China is a communist country, it's kind of a capitalistic society in another way. But I don't see China winning. I just don't. Maybe I'm too much of an American to believe that, but I just don't see it. Okay, I think we covered that one, Daryl. We get to event to be a multimillionaire PX. I think the most anti-vaxxers are secretly just scared of needles, cowards. Oh, I think it's more than that, buddy. Dr. Harvey Rich, a professor of epidemiology at Yale University, reports that 60% of new COVID-19 cases are individuals who have been vaccinated. So-called vaccines are experimental gene therapies. I haven't read that study, and I'm not sure how he comes to that conclusion. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to go through and see if there's any comments here that... okay. I'm going to skip some of these comments, guys. Sorry, just to try to get to the bottom. Time to improve the scenery. Get Mia in there. Do you want to say hi, Mia, to everybody?
You cannot see me.
This is all that I do. I really take a good multivitamin and food supplements. Yeah. And eating really good foods is important, more than the
Sorry.
supplements. Researchers in Brazil determined that the Chinese vaccine is 50.4 effective. No, thank you. Yeah, the Chinese shot. Yeah. Yeah, that 50% is not good enough. Yes, there was an announcement today on the SRRV. Good to know, man. So maybe I could read that straight off. Say hi, and then I'll search for that. Want to say hi to people, man?
Hi everyone. We're not too close.
See, tools. Anytime, no. Past 24 hours. Here, I can read it out straight off here. Guys, I'll just read this straight off from the Bureau of Immigration, Republic of Philippines. Here it says, revised guidelines as per IATF resolution number 113. Beginning 1st of May 2021, foreign nationals allowed under previous IATF resolution shall be allowed to enter the Philippines subject to the following conditions. With valid and existing visa at the time of entry, except for those qualified under Balik Bayan program, with pre-booked accommodation for at least 7 nights in an accredited quarantine hotel or facility, and 3, subject to COVID-19 testing at the quarantine hotel facility on the 6th day from the date of arrival, and subject to the maximum capacity of inbound passengers at the port and date of entry. However, travel restrictions by imposed by IATF resolution number 112 issued on 27 2021 shall continue to be enforced. So that's basically one advisory. What's the other advisory? In view of the foregoing, the following guidelines shall govern the entry of passengers to the Philippines beginning 1st of May 2021. Allowed to travel to the Philippines. Filipino citizens, including those with identification certificate. Okay. A foreign national with valid and existing visa at the time of entry. Foreign nationals allowed entry under Balik Bayan. We read all that. Why did I have a different one here? Foreign nationals who are holders of valid and existing special residence and retiree visa (SRRV), provided they present upon arrival an entry exemption document issued by the Department of Foreign Affairs. So there's a lot of hoops to go through there. There's a lot of hoops to go through there, and yeah, it seems like, well, there's hope, guys. Maybe they start with that and then they start extending more and more. Like I said, I'm optimistic.
Want me to play?
No, it's okay. Liberal only means a belief in personal freedoms. It's a philosophy that is neither democratic nor Republican. Rand Paul, for example, is a right-wing liberal. I'm a left-wing liberal. Okay. But some people, when you say liberal, they think of more democratic-leaning type of person. So there's one type of liberal that kind of get mixed up. So, but I see your point. You have a good point there. I got my first Pfizer shot today, but I didn't care which brand it was. I would have taken any vaccine, including Sputnik 5, the Chinese one. Don't care. Okay. Sputnik. You and Gio seem a lot happier than when you moved since you moved to the Cebu. Yes, I know I am, and I know he is. Talking to him, so um, okay, guys, I'm finishing up here. This is about the
Go now. Go down.
Was the COVID-19 created to get rid of the very old and those who have health issues? It looks very sinister to me. I don't believe in these types of theories, man. Uh, Diseases have been around as long as mankind has been around, so it happens. Last one, big one, was in 1917 or 1918. So it's been about 100 years. So that's about, and the more population we get, the more, and the closer we get to nature, the more chances are of getting uh, bad type of diseases. Thailand's still going ahead with bouquet July 1, but with quarantine. Okay. Later in the year, they want to open Chiang Mai, Pattaya, and PKK. You say with quarantine. I wonder how many day quarantines on that. Uh, Sir Paul is handsome. Thank you, Sir. Mia's laughing. We can leave. She's seen me in the morning when I wake up. That's why she's laughing. Joke. We can leave Australia as long as we leave for a minimum 3 months and agree to pay for 14-day quarantine on return plus COVID insurance. Okay, okay. So you can leave. So that's good. MechTech still thinks people should be um, exempted once they've had once they've been vaccinated. I completely agree. Okay, Scott says that ibuprofen has a history of links to blood clots where Tylenol doesn't. Oh, that's why they don't want you taking it with the vaccine shot. Okay. They started outbound vaccine passport trials in May. Let's see how soon they will allow tourists. Okay. Hello, Paul. Are you from Norway? I'm small part Scandinavian from my Norman side. My mother's Norwegian, and I've lived in Norway for 15 years, so I speak Norwegian fluently. Yeah, so part Norwegian, yes, half Norwegian.
I'm half Norwegian too.
Okay. See, hi Paul. I can see that Mia will benefit greatly from the move. In time, she will be even more attractive to you. Peace and blessings to you both from Lawrence. Thank you, Lawrence. Paul, you're okay. Paul, you're very good looking. Oh, sorry, I meant to say Mia. Yes, I mean, I hope from Malapasca Morena. Yes, I mean, I hope Philippines follows Thailand. We need it. Yeah, we really do. Too many people are going hungry. Yes, because there is no tourist industry. Yeah, and there's so much. It's not just the tourist industry. I mean, you think about the malls, people shopping. I mean, people who are here, they go to the supermarket, they go buy clothes. There's so much other industries that gain from it. And then if I go out and I spend, 5,000 pesos or 100 US dollars in a shop, okay, these people get paid. The people selling, the guy who owns the shop gets paid. He gets a certain percentage of that money. Then he goes and spends that money somewhere else. So when you spend money, it creates a positive circle cycle in the country. So I really think it's important that we get start getting back revenue in the Philippines, a lot of revenue, hopefully. Problem is the government doesn't have the resources to get through all the slums and shady towns. Yes, but they would have more resources if they allowed tourism in, and they could. For example, this is just an example. They could have some type of tourist tax. If you're coming to the Philippines, let's say you have to pay $100, okay, or $200 as an entry fee or something, and take that $200 and buy vaccines with it. They could do stuff like that to try to vaccinate the country. So, it's a balancing act, and they have to come up with what's best for the Philippines in the end, long term, not just short term. Okay, guys, that was the last comment that at least that I can see. So with that, I'll say thanks for joining the live chat went kind of long. I usually only do an hour, but last time I did 2 hours and 13 minutes, and this time I've done 1 hour and 45 minutes. So kind of long, but okay. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.